Sonic attack devices do exist, but is that what is happening in Cuba? Now, to tell us more, I'm joined by Timothy Leighton, who is a professor of ultrasonics and underwater acoustics at the University of Southampton. Professor Timothy Leighton, thanks so much for joining us. Now, do you actually believe that a sonic device was used in Cuba? And if so, what kind of device is it?
That's a very good question. I think you've got to run through a series of logical questions before you come to the conclusion that this was some kind of sonic weapon. Because if you expose a diverse group of people of all ages, children, grown-ups, to very high frequency, very intense sound in air, then the responses from individual to individual will vary greatly. The most susceptible people will be the children. They'll be most affected. And the people who are most robust against any such attack like this are the middle-aged men and the elderly. And so, because they're least susceptible, it seems strange to use an ultrasonic weapon for this purpose. Strange, not impossible. But so before we actually come to the conclusion that this might be an ultrasonic weapon, you've got to go through this series of logical steps, starting with the symptoms. So if we look at the symptoms, then the easiest ones to induce are annoyance, a failure to concentrate, an inability to do your job. And if you increase the amplitude a bit, then you can get other symptoms: headaches, nausea, dizziness, migraine, a feeling of pressure in the ear that's very unpleasant. Now, you can induce that to the people in the room, but predominantly to the young people, using an object about the size of a book or a laptop. If you increase the power and go to something large as a suitcase, then you can induce temporary, even permanent hearing loss, but that's quite rare. And again, the children will be most susceptible. But if somebody was to come to me with some or all of these symptoms of headache, nausea, vomiting, I would not go to ultrasound first. You've got to rule out the other things that are more likely: drugs, poisoning, a pathogen, some illness. So let us say you've done your due diligence, you've ruled out all these other causes, and perhaps you've even gone to the location where you think the attack occurred and you've measured ultrasound in air with a microphone. You can even, if you're lucky, get it with your smartphone. I've put a YouTube video up on how to do that. If you then you say to yourself, okay, these people were exposed to ultrasound, but even then, you can't say that it was a weapon. You've got to rule out accidental exposure, because we do purchase and produce devices that generate quite intense ultrasound in air. The most common would be pest scarers. We put them in buildings, factories, offices. They generate ultrasound. They're designed to drive away rats and birds and mice and even cats from the gardens. And these things are quite common, quite intense. Again, they're more likely to affect children than middle-aged men. And there is also a range of other devices you can buy for the office that accidentally produce ultrasound. But again, it's a level that's low enough to produce annoyance, perhaps, but really the children, young women, are more likely to be susceptible.
Timothy Leighton, we'll have to leave it there.
Okay.
Thank you. Timothy Leighton in West Wellow in the UK. Thank you.